Hey folks, Kevin here. Well, it's August 6, 2020, and today's video I'm going over some of the developments, the work that I'm doing on the access roads or widening of the Beaver Dam walls. So I'm working on an upper dam and a lower dam, and what I've done is I've had some challenges with cameras and batteries, so that's really put me behind as far as posting videos and all. But the other day I had the helmet cam on and I went around, and while I was on the mini excavator, I recorded some of the activities of digging out the material and placing materials into the dam wall. And today's video is really, the main topic is talking about how I'm trying to learn to utilize what I've learned from observing the beavers on how they construct materials, and some of the challenges that I anticipate in the future as well as a result of these processes. So number one, beavers always use the materials that are readily available locally, and so that's something. Number two, I need to make sure that I provide the appropriate food nutrient sources for the beaver families that are there. Number three, the material, beaver dams are continuously being worked on by the beavers for generations to come, because these carbonaceous woody materials break down gradually over time, just like in the hugelkultur beds that I've talked about in the past. And so we'll be looking at some woody products that broke down to complete soil, almost complete soil, that I'm using as a dry surface material to put on top of the mucky material that I'm digging out of the ponds on either side of the dams. And the GoPro camera mounted video, it doesn't lend to binocular vision because it's a single lens, and therefore depth perception is pretty challenging. But as we get out to the area that I'm working on now, or in the video when you see it, the depth is at the furthest depth that this mini excavator can actually dig. I think it's about 9 foot 6 inches deep. So why am I spending so much time on this project and another project, sealing Pond 5? Because we're in a prolonged drought and heat wave. Now, this isn't a heat wave today. I've got my sweatshirt on this morning, but we're actually having typical weather for this time of year today and the next couple of days. Yesterday, we did get 1/4 inch of rain, about 67 millimeters of precipitation. So you'll see some dampness when I go down with the helmet cam, which I went down yesterday and shot some of the footage. And so I'm showing the materials that we're integrating and how we're integrating it. So, for example, some of the bushy type trees, the understory trees that are cut off at probably 2 and 3 foot length by the beaver, and those materials are consumed. The bark is consumed and the leaves are consumed, but then the woody material is woven into the banks. Well, all of these spike-like structures, which really doesn't show up that well in the GoPro footage, with their roots, I'm digging up and putting them in a line going along the way to help maintain the wall from spreading out and collapsing as quickly. These dam walls that I'm building will have to be rebuilt year after year because they're going to settle over time. So, sorry about not posting as many videos recently. There's a lot of topics that I want to cover, including seed saving, mycorrhizal fungi, the garlic and shallots, Pond 5 sealing, those sorts of things, and certainly garden updates as well. All of those things I'm going to try to get to. Hopefully the camera's recording everything this time. But today what we're going to do, Jim had actually asked about, geez, it'd be nice to see some of the beaver. And unfortunately what I ended up doing was shooting some footage with my cell phone of the beaver when I go down there early in the morning to check everything out. And I was able to get some footage, but it isn't great footage, so I'm including that, and along with that some of the GoPro of me delivering soil to the area and doing the work on the construction of the dam walls with the mini excavator. So those are the things you'll see today. Unfortunately, I just haven't been able to capture so much of the wildlife that's down there, and that's what I absolutely love. I'm in an environment that I grew up with and that I actually appreciate so much, and yet to see these little baby beavers swimming around in there, it's just captivating. It fills my heart with joy. So that's about what you're going to see today. I wish I could get more of the wildlife photography and videography. Hopefully those things will come in the future as I get this area constructed and I can do some recording down there when I get some more time. So I hope you enjoy the video. Be sure to give us a thumbs up. If you think the video has value, feel free to leave a comment, suggestions, experiences, whatever it may be. Always enjoy that. And by all means, folks, take care and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye now. Okay, first off, I thought I'd show you some of the materials I'm using down below. Many of the materials that you can see here on the surface, the bushes and branches and root areas, are materials that I'm using down below. But what this is supposed to represent is like a hugelkultur mound. So there's lots of logs underneath this area right here, tree branches, roots from root balls, you know, digging up trees and all. And then just a few weeks ago, I took our surface soil with the bushes and covered it up. Now that dirt material covering up the wood is going to aid in the process of breaking down all that rich carbon material. So that's what I did in a few different locations, and I'm going to walk over and show you a couple of places. Recently I posted a video on breaking down or deconstructing a large hugelkultur system, and that video showed you some of the soil after several years of the wood being broken down after being covered up. Now over here, now this is a hillside where we get down to where the beaver pond is down on the other side of the forest here. And I just dug up some of these rocks, so I'll mention this right now. So all these rocks, a couple hundred years ago, when this property was farmed, the people would go ahead and either build stone walls or make stone mounds. And those mounds, over the last probably 200 years, gradually sink into the soil, and so this is where I just dug those rocks out of. This will be an area where I deposit a lot of limbs and bushes and dead trunks in the future. They'll all break down and create beautiful soil down here. But if you look over here, this is all woody material. About 5 years ago, when we cleared an area and dug out many trees and bushes and all there, and the branches and all, and this was probably 8 feet higher than what it is now, where I had to climb up onto it with the tractor to put this dirt on top of it. And over the last several years, all that wood is broken down and turned into rich soil. So I'm going to be excavating some of this out, and I'll show you what that material looks like in a minute. But that's a little bit different than the stones. The stones are not going into the Beaver Dam construction. These are going to an access area, so I have good solid ground in the muck area by the chinampas, and I made that video on the chinampas, and where the solar water pump is going, I really need solid ground, and so I needed to come and get one of these piles of rocks so I can sink into that muddy area. Let's go over here. At the same time that I did that pile there, we went ahead and created another large pile that came all the way out to where that little access path is here. So from here way back to where you could see the dirt is there, that was all the tree trunks and root balls, and you can see there's quite a few limbs that didn't completely break down. Now these were all growing out of the surface of that. So you pile it all up, you let it go for a few years, and trees find their way and bushes find their way and grow out of the surface of it. But most of that wood broke down and turns into beautiful rich carbonations. Now there is some sand here because that's part of the gravel, and the stones are just fine, but this will be covering the muck that's integrated into the dam access road construction. The other thing I do when I'm doing these projects is I'm always looking for clusters of or groups of trees coming together, like this right here and right here. These are fine when they're this size, but as they get larger and the tree trunks start to expand, it creates lots of damage and dead wood as the trees grow. If anything, I'd like to have a single trunk coming up, let it balance out so that there's less chance of damage occurring with the trees and injury from the winds that are here and damaging them together. So by digging out the root ball, hopefully it'll show in some of the GoPro footage, and we're having these long trunks in the area where it's all muck, which would just gradually break down and fall away. As I integrate this type of a system into the dam wall access road areas, it will help to hold these materials together. But this will turn into that soil right over there in the future, and the height of the dam wall, the access road, is going to consolidate. It's going to shrink significantly. So when you're doing the job like I'm doing down there, it's important to mimic what the beaver actually do, and I'll go over that when we get down there. Digging out all of these tree trunks and materials here, bushes and all, that'll be integrated right into the walls, because this area here I'm going to harvest the soil from, and I'll cover that in future videos. But all of this material is going to be integrated. Walk over here for a minute. So I took part of this dead ash out of this spot yesterday, and there are many small trees that the beaver had chopped off. Now I mashed that a little bit with the excavator when I was digging this out, but if you can notice out here in the pond-like area right here, you see all of these little stumps that the beaver have chopped off, and they take all that material, they eat the bark right down to the cambium layer, they eat all these greens as well. All of these materials in here, most of these they do consume, except for those bushes right there. So everything here is like a delicacy for the beaver, and the bark or the cambium layer are all nutritious food sources for the beaver. And when they chop those off, it does a few different things. They use the excess material that they don't consume and constantly integrate it into their dam walls. And they take the muck, which is really, really thick, and they pack that into all the voids. And these are similar things to what we're doing. But when they're constructing the dam wall after they chop some of these off, and they do it at different heights, they then go along and they take the trunks and the branches and they weave them in between all of these leftover stumps, which helps to create a nice barrier. Then they weave in all the smaller stuff as well. So I'm digging up as many of these small spike systems with the roots, putting it down into the base, because we're at about 9 foot deep over there where we're going in a moment. Same thing over here on the upper dam. And so those help to stabilize the long tree trunks, and this one will cover up and help to fill a nice void. I'll do some measurements, cut this stump off where I want it so that the height of it fits in beautifully over there. I can stick that stump way down deep in the muck, and that will give me a nice firm base to go ahead and weave more and more of the trees and bushes. And all of these small areas here, so this is one of those units here that are dug up. Here's another one here. They're all over the place. So these things here will sit there, and these will help hold all of the main trunks and branches. And so I've been digging them up all along in here. And everything that I've shown as far today will get me about 5 feet in length out here in the Beaver Dam wall access road construction. And Jim had asked about, it'd be nice to see some beaver. I did capture a little bit on my cell phone the other day, and I'll include that in the video at some point in here. And there'll be some video footage of me using the excavator along in here as well. But this dam I haven't shown before. This is the lower dam. And if you're to reach off to the side here, close to this, it's about 9 foot 4 or 5 inches. That's the depth of what my excavator will dig down to. And there's a good 2 foot, at least 1.5 foot of really thick, excellent soil, and that's that black rich stuff that's right in here. And so what I do is I have to extend this road wide enough going right over into the woods there, and then make my way back up to the upper dam. The video footage of the beaver going around here right in this area the other morning, I don't know, there's snappers and snakes that came up on here. I probably won't include those. The deer come out here, but I haven't caught the deer out on here on camera. When I'm working here, sometimes they'll walk right up behind me. And I don't have the camera on when I'm working here. But every day, like the beaver was here this morning, I was watching them. And so as I work in this area and I'm digging out the beautiful soil sediment, I'm dislodging some of these sticks that they stick in there, and they just come along and repack it after I'm done. So that beaver is quite busy. That's the spot there. You can see it's a little bit bare with it, where he's taken a whole bunch of branches and hanging them over that area. And I wonder if he's got a den in that area as well, because they keep going up and down in that area. I've seen one of the pups and one adult so far. Those are the ones I've seen. They're here just about all the time that I'm working. I'll see them pop up in different locations. If I come out here in the morning and I'm just standing here, the one big beaver comes out every morning and just swims. It gets to about 10 feet from me, but that's about as close as he gets so far. So this is the area here. So all of the spiky, you can see that's a tree trunk. I'm sorry, that's a root ball from a tree, and you see it works in all the way over, and it goes right over the wall here. I need to have this as wide as possible because their original dam sort of curves in this way, then bellies back and all. And in order to maintain the width of this roadway, I have to, so that my tractor doesn't fall off as I bring the dirt out here. So that hugelkultur soil that broke down, I use that to cap off the muck. There's all sorts of spikes that stick up as I'm doing this, and I weave in all of the bushes, as you may be able to see here. As I put a root ball there, then I weave the bushes in and push them down in, and I take the muck integrated on top of it. And when I'm done with it and satisfied, then I put the wood that's broken down in those piles up above on the surface. That helps to dry out the muck. I try to leave the muck for 1 day and then put the soil on top. Believe it or not, it takes a lot of woody mass to just go, say, 5 or 6 feet a day. So it's challenging, and it takes a lot of materials to do this. And one of the things to remember is, if you saw in that hugelkultur decomposition or breakdown of the hugelkultur mound, one of the things that's going to happen is this is always going to be compressing and consolidating. This level is going to get lower, which will, the water will breach this area, especially during the winter months, the freeze and thaws. So having this sealed really well and having it wide enough so that I can get out here in the future. The other really good thing about having this soil on the surface is vegetative growth will start to happen in no time at all. By next spring, there'll be little voids all along in here because some of the material will work its way down in between all of these limbs and tree trunks and root balls and all. So soil will work its way down. So I'll always have to be coming back and rebuilding the surface. But one of the things that will help to prevent soil erosion and provide a highly nutritious source for the beavers and the other wildlife here and give them cover is having rich soil surface, so that muck initially and then the breakdown products, really carbonaceous rich soil. This is just sand and wood products that are broken down, and of course rocks and sticks. Well, all of this vegetative growth will start to redevelop on the surface of this. So I have to be careful and really try to make sure each spring and each fall that I come down and fill in any voids and gradually try to build this up as time goes on, so that we have more, nothing's permanent, but it would be more of a long-lasting system here. This, I'm going to want to put more soil in here and get lots of plant growth in here as well. One of my goals is that this will be not only a dam wall and provide food sources for the wildlife here, but it'll also be an observation area where we can come down and monitor. Since I'm working in here, I don't want to put any underwater cameras in here yet, but really watching the beavers interact down in here is really important to me. Watching the other wildlife, the aquatic wildlife as well, all that's really important as well, and watching them without disturbing them. And I'm also a closet photographer, and so having a good viewpoint, not like this point, but over there. So we'll run over there to the upper dam, which is a good 5 feet higher than this dam. So the beaver, so some of one of the things that's so important when you're interacting with nature like this is paying attention to what tree sources. So there's all of the poplars around here, like that's a maple there. Here's a black cherry. They love the black cherries. They love the poplar or aspen trees. They love the beech trees. They love so many different grasses as well. So paying attention to what trees they're actually consuming and which plants they're consuming is really important, so that we make sure that we provide adequate future nutritional resources and construction materials for them in the future. We'll see how they treat these access roads as time goes on. So we got oak trees, cherry trees, poplar trees, maple trees, beech trees, all different types of berry bushes. So when I did the first video on the Beaver Dam, I got to about right here. That's about as far as I had actually gotten out to here. You could see that bush there. It was larger. I pruned it back quite a bit so I could work around in this area. In here, it's a challenge trying to get enough material from down deep in here, because there's a huge bedrock that sits under this whole area. It at least goes right to this bushy tree right here. And on this side, I'm all the way down, you know, a good 9 feet. And it gets deeper as I go out this direction. So it's going to be a challenge as I work my way out here, because you can see the drastic drop off. So I may not be able to reach the soil there, which will really delay this whole process. I can keep getting the trees and all, and I can only work a couple of feet at a time, a few feet, because you can see this is how much I was able to build over a 24-hour period here. And here I've got to interlock more tree stumps, more trunks, more bushes going in between, and all of those spikes sticking up as well. So just trying to build this out, and I want to try and get it nice and wide as I go through this area, because we want growth at least on both sides, and that way we can give them cover and all. And Jim had asked, how much of this do I own out here? We own our property line. If you see that way out in the distance there, it's the Beaver den, and it's also a place where all the birds go to now. That we're about halfway between the shoreline and that hut to where our property ends. So we own all the way out to those trees there, which is where the lower dam goes, which you can't see very well because of all the growth down in there, but once I get out further you'll be able to see better. But that all curls around and comes to this area. So just past that tree line is where our property ends and all. So there'll be some GoPro footage of, some phone footage of the beaver swimming around the first dam that we looked at. I probably won't put, because all these videos are so darn long, I probably won't put in video footage of any other wildlife in this video. And there'll be a little bit of GoPro footage showing some of the work with the excavator and all. Okay.